There,
All right.
it says we're live. All right, so start with the BoD meeting. All the official stuff cracks me up. So, call to order, yada, yada. Just jump right into it. The first item on the agenda is electing a vice president. Do we have anybody able and willing to step up? Well,
I can volunteer for that.
Good man, Corin.
I suppose officially, I make a motion to nominate Cameron Taylor as BoD vice president.
I second this motion.
hey, so suppose we should have any discussion about the motion? Or should we just vote it straight in? All right, let's vote it straight in. I'm going to go from what it's looking like on my screen. So we'll start with Red. Red, you go first. Yay, nay?
Yay.
Okay. And then Cameron.
Yay.
Jason.
I don't vote.
You don't vote. Good man. It was a test. Sean.
Yay.
Yay. Me. Yay. Unanimous. I'm sorry, Cameron. You are now the vice president. All right. Board liaison. Anybody want to make a motion or suggestion, or anybody want to step up into that one?
What
Don't all
is this?
speak at once. So
What does the position entail?
board liaison. I had that file up, and then of course I closed it. Give me a second, but the summarized gist is you are the interactor with outside entities, and you maintain, any interaction with outside things, contacts, etc., on behalf of the board. Let me look up the official wording though, and I can.
Yeah, basically, if another outside agency has to deal with our agency, they go through the liaison. And that person's required to track all of those interactions, which will include things like contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah, let's. I'm not going to step forward for that. I forget enough stuff already.
I'll step forward for that.
All right. Would you like a exact description of that?
Yeah, you can send that to me later.
Oh, okay. I like your blind faith. I love it. Does anybody make an official motion for this?
I want to make an official motion to nominate Red for our board liaison.
We got one. Anybody? Give me a second.
I second the motion.
Yay. All right. Discussion or voting? Voting it is. Red. This is the chance to save yourself. Yay? Okay. Cameron.
Yay.
I don't think I can get Jason twice. Sean.
Yay.
Okay. And let's do it. So that's official. Any other board business that we need to bring up? Okay. Would anybody like to motion for adjourning?
I'm step forward a motion to adjourn the BoD meeting.
Okay.
I second that.
Yay. I don't think we need to vote on that.
We're getting the hang of this.
I know we're gonna get it. We'll like perfect it right as you guys are like, I'm done with this. Never doing it again. All right, let's call it 8:22 p.m. All right, I can close one of the many million tabs I've opened in my web browsers. Yay! All right, for everybody following along, we're jumping straight into CoC meeting. You guys can figure out who's present. I think we're all pretty decently known at this point. All right, item number 1, Alaska State Fair. Anything to report? And I know that the follow-up on there that I don't have written on here is about breaking down the walls, but I'm going to let Jason have the floor on this.
All right. Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff for you guys. hopefully you've been following along with the reports that I've been posting. That gives you a good idea of where we're at with stuff. Today is almost over. The fair closed at 8 o'clock, but really it didn't close. There's still tons of people here. So I've got a couple people holding down the booth while I sit in on this meeting. What I need from you guys is some direction on how to handle the booth. Now, I've got some suggestions if you would like to hear those, or you can tell me what you have in mind first.
For the booth, we're talking about all the physical components, the wood, just so we're all on the same page, right? We're talking about all the stuff that makes up the physical castle, and yeah, that's it, right? Is there a lot of other supplies? Is there like a tent or a canopy or something too that goes with that?
No, there's a canopy that's owned by Northreach.
Okay,
that's used for whatever Northreach wants to use it for.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple odds and ends besides the sheer lumber, but but we're talking about the physical booth.
Okay.
Does
and
already have a plan for that?
Not that I'm aware of at this point.
Okay. Then what I would like to the council to consider is I would like to appropriate the materials that we have for the booth now and relegate them to just being the fair booth, so that we can configure them in such a manner that they can be used specifically for the fair booth without being transformed into a pile of lumber every time we use it. Right now we use it as the castle, and we use it for a variety of things. And this has caused some issues with the state fair, and it's not normal for vendors to get in and out of that storage area, at various times of the year that aren't fair related. And the problem is every time we use it, it literally just gets turned into a pile of lumber. And I've had several complaints about it. They made me go clean it up, on like the third or fourth day of the fair. So I had to go over there and deal with a bunch of stuff. And there was literally just piles of wood, not stacked or anything, just piled up. And they didn't like that. They told me they were going to throw it away if I didn't get it taken care of. So, when I went over there and looked at it, if I were their grounds crew, I would have assumed it was trash too, to be fair. So hopefully you guys have been watching in the reports. You'll see that we've made a little more money than the council asked me to make. I would like to use some of that to essentially reinforce and set it up so that this can be a permanent setup, and make it so that it can be put up by 3 or 4 people in an hour rather than several people over several days. And what I mean by that specifically is taking all of the 4x8 plywood panels that we have and actually framing them in as walls and setting them up so they can be bolted together in a static configuration, and then doing some decorative painting and stuff like that. I think the best time to do that would be now while we've got it set up, rather than trying to figure it out next summer. So that's the first thing that I need you guys to consider and give me an answer on. The second thing is, do you guys want me to fill out the paperwork for next year for the event, for the booth, and pay all the fees and stuff associated with that, because those aren't in this budget? And if so, I need to start doing all of that as part of our close up. Like they've been accepting returning vendor applications since the first day of the fair. So we need to get ours in there if we would like to do that. And yeah, so that's the other thing is, do you want to do this again next year? And if so, would you like me to finish that paperwork? And then lastly, I need to make the council aware that I'm pretty sure, I'm positive that we've gone significantly over budget. There are a lot of things that for whatever reason weren't really accounted for in the budget, such as like buying vendor passes and stuff, because they only give us a certain number. I think it's and they give us 60 to start with, and we have like 120 or 140 ships to fill. So so we have to buy those, and that I think I spent $180 on that. We're not allowed to have any exposed lumber, so I had to buy a bunch of paint and take care of all of that. Just little things like that, which will be in my closing report. But since I'm sitting here talking to all of you guys, I wanted you to know that we spent a little bit more money than what I was allotted, because I think we were allotted $2,500, and I haven't gotten an answer from the Prime Minister yet, but I think the site itself costs close to $2,500. So I really didn't have any money, but I promised that we more than made up for it. So instead of $1,000 profit, I'm looking at giving you guys upwards of like $6,000.
Okay.
Frankly, I think I think the way the budget's set up is silly. So as long as we've got like net profit equal to or greater than what the budget is anticipating, I think that's good.
I would agree that, like, I wouldn't punish autocrats that spend more money than they were asked to spend, as long as they make more than that, right? As long as it doesn't cost us anything. I know that when we do the budgets, we just do our best to project what the expenses and incomes are going to be. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is that the event is supposed to, if it's a recreational event like Wolf's Cry, that it's supposed to break even at least. And an event like this, it's supposed to actually make money. So
I think we're well within that making money range.
We're doing good.
Doing good. Okay. A couple questions about the fair walls and that stuff. So realize this is the same material that we used to do the castle walls, at like Wolf's Cry, but this is separate from what's used previously for Dungeon Crawl, right?
Correct. And that's another issue that you guys will have to take up. That's not me specifically, but on a side note, those are all stored behind Drake's dojo out in Palmer or Wasilla, whatever. Okay. You guys will need to come up with a plan for those. Just so put that on your radar. But yeah, this is separate than the Dungeon Crawl stuff. And
those. Go ahead, Gordon. Sorry.
No, I just want to say, so just so that I'm very, very clear, I will be asking, what I'm asking you for is not just permission to do this, but it's going to cost money as well. There's some additional lumber that will need to be purchased. I'd like to paint everything so it looks nice. And, a couple little things like that. I don't imagine it being huge. I don't honestly have a number off the top of my head because I don't know exactly what it'll take, but I imagine the whole process would cost less than a few $100. But I'd like to frame the walls in so they're nice and solid and so they can just be bolted together. And I think that would make assembly very, very easy, so that anybody with a socket wrench can do it.
I'm trying to think this out in my head. The fact that, so we'd be basically taking our castle walls and leaving them there permanently. Would we need to build a whole new castle, or how would that work?
Yeah, the existing castle is going to go away.
I mean, really.
So we'd also have to spend money to build another castle.
No, you will have to. Well, unless you don't want one.
No, I do. That's not what I meant.
No, but realistically, the castle we have right now it's done 5 Wolf's Cries, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So yeah. So and it's been. I mean, it's never been stored indoors. So, with a plywood and 2x4 castle, I don't know what you guys feel is a reasonable lifespan. I feel that the way that we've treated it and used it and kind of abused it, that 5 years is pretty reasonable. And that's not a bad refresh rate for something like that. If we want to build a new one every 5 years, that would seem okay. But yes, if you guys want me to move forward with what I've suggested, you won't have a castle anymore.
Right.
In theory, you could take these walls and then use them for the castle, but I would like that to stop happening simply so that we have this booth. And we don't have to worry about that anymore. Because I think that if we do the fair right every year, the benefits are there. And having a really good setup booth is a big part of that. And the configuration we used this year was pretty solid, as you guys can see.
And the dynamic for the fair, the particulars for that aren't changing. They're not very variable, like the slot size or anything like that we're getting. So doing it like this.
I'm going to work on it. I spent some time talking with the vendor coordinator, and obviously she's very busy during the fair. But I'm going to sit down with her some more. For those of you guys that were at the fair this year, there's a really nice spot that's on a corner right across from where the BMX show is. And this year it was empty. They just had picnic tables there. So that means there is no vendor that can claim to want to return to it next year. So we wouldn't be fighting anybody for it if I push for us to be there. It's an oddly shaped thing, but a configuration we have right now would work even in that oddly shaped spot, and it would give us visibility from the purple gate. So when people walk in, they will see it. So no matter which way they go on the path, they'll know we're there. I think that would be good for us. So, and then I also need you guys. I need authorization from you guys to store it here at the fair again this year. The cost has increased $300.
To 300 or by 300?
To 300. It was $250 last year. Now it's $300 for the year to store it there. So there's that. There's some other bills that have been tacked onto this fair too, just so you guys are aware. They weren't part of the budget. Probably shouldn't be considered part of the budget, but like nobody paid the storage fee for last year. That wasn't followed up on by the autocrat then. So so I paid that, which I'm hoping you guys will reimburse me for because they wouldn't let me open up the booth until we paid it.
Oh, you had to pay it out of pocket?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't have $300 in cash yet. And so there was that. And then we also didn't pay taxes to Palmer, which we're required to do.
Last year?
Yeah. And so I think Mara took care of that, though, because when the Palmer people came by, they said we were good, but they had previously said that we owed money. So I think Mara took care of it. She's not here to confirm, but I don't know how much that was.
Do you know if she paid that out of pocket?
I didn't pay for it, so I don't know. I paid out of pocket for the storage. I mean, I paid out of pocket for a bunch of stuff. I've got receipts. It'll go in my report.
Yeah.
You guys can pay me back. It'll be good. And right now I've got this huge stack of money to turn over to somebody. There's a lot of ones in it, so it's really big. But like, I don't know. We were sitting last time I checked, we were sitting at like $1,250 for today. So on top of everything, like we're doing good.
Okay.
And I think last time I checked, we only had 6 swords left.
Wow.
So we were kicking some butt. I mean, we sold like 50 of them yesterday.
Nice.
Other than that, I that's probably a lot for you guys to talk about and consider. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I got nothing.
No, I'm just thinking.
That's fine.
Not directly related to that, but we have $2,000 in the budget for castle upkeep. How much of that would be available for rebuilding the castle if we go through proposal of using the booth?
So I would like to keep those separate. I mean, ideally, I would recommend you do that. If that $2,000 hasn't been spent, I don't know if any of it was used by the Dungeon Crawl or the Wolfscry team. You have to check with Mara to see if anything was assigned to that budget. I don't know.
Yeah.
If not, take that whole budget and use it towards a new castle.
Right. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Authorize me to have like an extra $300 or $400 for the state fair booth.
Yeah.
And make
No, I'm not certain on the protocol on whether or not we can explicitly authorize you to use some of what is budget surplus and the income from state fair to do your spending on that. But in terms of letting you use the pieces, like your comment, we won't have a castle anymore if we say yes to doing the booth, like you said, if we've got that $2,000 to work on, to reconstructing your castle.
For administrative ease, I suppose you could let me use budget from the castle, and then change that budget item later whenever you need to. That's an option too. I mean, that's the pencil side of things. You guys as a body have the ability to appropriate money outside of the budget within a certain dollar number. I don't have the admin manual in front of me, but I know you guys have the authority to do that.
In general, what I would like to see is that while we have this surplus of income from this event, that we solidify to continue having this event at this quality next year and all the associated fees and costs that are required to make that happen. Now, what that turns into as far as line items on a budget, work through that, but
right. No, and I agree. I mean, one of my goals this year was to demonstrate to the kingdom the value of this particular event and show you guys how much money we can make if it's organized and if you have a good team of people put together and they're all focused on the same thing. And I think that we managed to accomplish that. We made a ton of money. And if we can have state fairs like this every year and get to depend on even approximate dollar range, that'd be great for us. It's a lot of money.
Do you want to put together an entire package of what the dollar amount is that you'd actually be asking for? Because we jumped around quite a bit in smaller things. Throw a dollar amount and maybe broken up into like 3 subcategories, because I think it was. I'm just trying to add it up.
We'll need to figure it out sooner than later, because I think
I know
it ends tomorrow.
No, it ends tonight. I got to start taking this thing down tomorrow. So here's some numbers. You guys, somebody write this down, because I don't got nothing. All right, I need authorization for $300 to store the darn thing. So that needs to happen. 1, 2, let's say $400 to set the fair booth to get it all the way we need it to go. I don't think I need that much exactly, but I feel like that's probably a pretty safe number for me to work with at least. And maybe that's it.
What about the
I mean, just giving me the green light to have this event next year. I think it's only a $50 deposit or application fee or whatever. I don't think it's very much.
Okay.
And
so we're looking at a total of 750.
Yeah, they're for different things. But yeah, and I mean that's well within the extra income that we've earned. And definitely within what you guys can appropriate, because honestly, I think you can appropriate it to 10%, and like what I just asked for is like 10% of what we made at this event. Not even what you have in the bank. So
let's do a first vote. Castle walls converting into permanently and only state fair walls. Anybody want to discuss that before we just jump into a vote? No? Okay. So walls coming state fair only walls, no longer castle. All right, Red, you're up.
Yes.
Hey, Cameron.
Yes.
We skipped Jason. Sean.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's pretty unanimous. So you have yourself a bunch of old walls. Yay. Now let's see if we can give you some money to do anything with it. Does anybody have a problem with just lumping the $750 together into basically a budget saying, make this happen next year? Or do you want to break it down?
Do we have to do any breaking down so it's easier for Mara?
I think she can figure it out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I've got it broken down on the list here, but I can just, and I'm hoping it won't even hit 750, because honestly, my guesstimate off the last time I did a wood project, depending on how much stuff he needs, I was guessing around 200 for the material cost, but that's,
I want to paint it too, though. And paint
yeah. Fair.
But I don't think I need $400. That just gives me room in case something weird happens.
Right. You find one that completely rotted out.
So I don't have to come and ask for more.
Yeah. So do you guys want to break it down, or do you want to just do it as a lump sum?
We can do it as a lump sum.
Okay.
Well, we already voted on the. Well, sorry.
We're voting on the storage fee, the $50 application fee, and $400 for me to spruce up the joint.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. So, Red.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
I'll go yes. So yay, make stuff happen. Awesome. And then you paid, what did you pay out of pocket?
I gotta look. I've got a pile of receipts. So I'll have a final by the end of the week, I will have an event disclosure finalization form with everything in it. I will have a report for you guys. That's my goal anyway, so that you guys can do what you need to do. But I promise I'll let you know sooner rather than later, because I want my money back.
Okay.
Cameras
All
are gone
next,
again.
Should we move on to the next item? Is that pretty much it for the state fair?
I think since just trailing off of this, we probably should decide when we want to start building the next castle.
Yeah, I would suggest on that, I would suggest maybe opening that up to the populace to see if anybody has an idea or wants to like help engineer plans, and then maybe like vote on how you want the castle to look and go together. Because I know that at least one member has talked to me about some ideas that they had for, you know, Castle 2.0.
Did we lose Corin? No, he's still there. Never mind.
Sorry.
He's just a black box.
Sorry, I need to get a webcam set up. I bought one, I just haven't set it up yet.
All right, moving on to the next item. Yeah, we're gonna make Hunter do it. Anyways, Grand Academy. Any updates? Anything anybody's heard of?
So Shelby's on the road right now. She's stuck in fair traffic. She has not been able to hear back from the site that they were looking at. But this sucks having to chase down sites like this. She did talk to me about the fact that she has applied for use of, I want to say Palmer High, which apparently allows people to use the classrooms and all kinds of stuff. So so that's an option. And then Drake has also volunteered his dojo as an educational space, and we may be able to use both together. I'm not sure, but until she hears back from them, we don't have anything solid, unfortunately.
Okay.
But she's working on it like every day.
All right. Our Fairbanks guy's missing, so unless anybody knows anything about the UAF club event or has any info about the Comic-Con at Eielson Air Force Base, anybody seen or heard anything? No. All right, so we'll just skip those guys for now. So lining up the RFBs for future events. I was staring at the list of them, and most of them end up kind of falling outside of your guys' reign, except for Yuki Fest. So the immediate one that I'm worried about is Yuki Fest, and I got most of the RFB put together because there was nothing for Yuki Fest for last year, as far as like a pre-done request for bid file. But I don't know anything about Yuki Fest, so if anybody has info that they can...
Super tiny event, and that's why there isn't anything like that before. Is it's
okay.
Too small to warrant it.
Gotcha. What do you guys think? Should we make this official and put a thing together for it, or should we just let people jump at it kind of ad hoc?
When is it?
January.
In the past, I think that it's done best as just being a Ravenstone event. And just, I mean, it's in their backyard. It's sort of it's where their park came from, but it's run by the Palmer High Anime Club, and it's in the Palmer High basement / gym. And there's there's I don't know, maybe 100 or 150 people that show up to it. It's pretty small. It's a lot of fun. It's super cute. But it's not a big event. It doesn't require a huge budget or a lot of infrastructure or planning. You just sort of show up and run demos in the gym and have a table.
Gotcha. So does anybody disagree with just letting Yuki Fest be with whoever steps up out of Ravenstone or Loop and Moon? Of course, it doesn't have to be exclusively. Dropping the RFB. No, nobody has an issue. Nobody has any thoughts. No. Okay. And then I was looking at the rest of the RFBs, and there's no way. Okay, one idea that was shared was that we want to have RFBs lined up so that at the end of one Wolf's Cry, you already know who's going to be running the next one. That was one example that was given to me. You almost want to have them lined up with a year out. but there's no way that we're going to accomplish that for this reign. So the idea is, do we get these RFBs all cleaned up, ready for for this council, and just slam them all out and have put them all out at once so that we overwhelm people? Do we stagger them out as far as the release? And then same with the due dates. Do we make everything due at the same time? Or do we stagger the release dates the due dates so that they end up being a little bit closer to the event? There's pros and cons both ways.
I don't think overwhelming people is a smart idea. I think like releasing the applications for them like a certain amount of time ahead out, and then make the due dates closer to the event, still giving enough time. Because if you overwhelm people with a lot of applications, they're gonna see one and not see the rest.
So what's enough time between closing it for us to decide, assign it to somebody, and then for the crats to spin up and make the event awesome?
I mean, bare minimum 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it though. Like, what the reason that SenchiCon isn't even an option is because we waited too long, right? If you do it 2 months before, by the time the autocrat even gets the reins, there's no booths left. Like, this stuff happens a year in advance for a reason. So, one of the things you could do that allows you to put all of them out there without overwhelming them is to put them all in the same place, like on a website, and then link to that and let people that are interested in running an event go look at the events that are open to bid on. And then you can just do periodic reminders of what events are still on there, which ones you guys are looking at, when the dates are going to close, etc. And it's a little less overwhelming because they can digest it in a single post and then go look at the page if they're even interested.
I like that idea.
But realistically, I'm just now finishing with this and shifting gears to work on Dungeon Crawl, and I already feel like I'm behind where I need to be. Like, I want contracts signed months ago, that I need to start getting signed now. And if I was put in charge of an event like that, say 90 days out, there's just no way I could make it as awesome as I could if I was given 6 months or a year. And
correct.
When you look at big events like the state fair and things like that, I mean, these guys are already signing their contracts for next year, and like that's technically more than a year in advance when they start doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you wait, then you're hosed.
Yeah, I think an RFP for an event should be available to be bid on 2 years before the event. Personally, I don't think that's.
I mean, that's plenty of time. I think people might forget about it by then, but I think that's enough time for the event autocrat to do a great job. But maybe Corin's onto something there, where if you create a website like what I was just talking about, when you put the RFPs out, put them out for this year and next year at the same time.
Yeah.
Let people start submitting bids for 2020 now. And if someone's got an amazing idea that you think is in the organization's best interest, vote on it.
I do like that idea. Finger guns to Corin.
Yeah, I mean, like, when it comes to big AmpGuard events like Olympiad, like there was a time when they were bidding those out like 5 years ahead of time. I don't recommend we do 5 years for the record.
No.
Agreed.
So far. Well, I'm even thinking some people can't do 9 months out because they just don't know, our volunteer base isn't necessarily that organized or stable. That's just the counter argument that I'm throwing out there.
But my counter argument is that those guys probably shouldn't be the ones in charge of those events. They should be helping the people who are. We've got a handful of people who are more than capable of doing a project that far out. Give them first crack at it, and if then nobody wants it, then it just goes unbidded until 9 months out.
Yeah, the due date for it should be closer to 9 or 6 months from the event. But like, it should be available for people to look at and start thinking about whether or not they want to bid on it, well in advance.
I think of the due date as the date right before the CoC meeting where we get to assign who it's going to go to, though, and that's critical. That's critical because then you get to assign the crat, and the crat knows that it's their thing. And that's the point at which you want a year out, right?
Ideally, like maybe make a window. Maybe say like this is the date when the council reserves the right to start voting on bids, and this is the date when we will no longer accept any bids, and the organization will find another way to run the event.
Okay, so a review date, it's in terms of like hiring concepts. It's a review date versus a close date.
Yeah, because then if somebody doesn't get their thing in by that time, and then you select somebody, they missed that window. But there's also a hard deadline of 6 months before the event. If we haven't chosen anybody, then the Kingdom Regent gets to do it, or whatever. Like we have a fallback, so the event still happens.
Right.
Like that's probably a pretty safe way to do it.
And then maybe a review date.
But
12 months before the event.
I think you should vary by event, because an event like Wolf's Cry, 2 months is not enough time. But an event like Yuki Fest, 2 months is plenty of time.
Yeah.
The bigger the event, the more time the organization has to do it itself. Because again, you have to interface with the state fair and stuff like that, and they book stuff out years in advance.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're talking about how you can't do a year out in advance this year with this council simply because
it's already that close.
But if you bid for the next 2,
right,
then you automatically get that going on track. Then the next council's just got to keep it up 1 year in advance, or 2 years in advance, or however they want to do that. But that would basically put you on schedule.
Right.
Okay. So what I'll do for you guys is next meeting, so 2 weeks from today, I'll try to have all of them lined up with the dates that the events actually happen, for the ones that we need to do, and then we'll work through soonest to latest, and set our timeline for this year for those events, and then we'll figure out what the next one will be and what the dates will look like for those. So we'll have 2 sets of dates that we're going to configure for every event for next year. Does that work?
Yes. And then I had a quick question for Gorn, because I don't remember. Did anyone get appointed to our next Frozen Odyssey, or is that still unbidded, undecided?
Yeah, nobody's been appointed for that. They're the only event that the previous council has bid on or accepted a bidder for was Dungeon Crawl. DC. Everything else was pushed off onto your guys' plate.
Okay. All right. We good with moving on?
Yep.
Okay. Waiver updates. So first, Jason, did you get anything from other kingdoms? I assume you've been busy, so it's not.
Yeah, I know. I've been living at the fair for the last 15 days. So
okay, so nothing yet.
Sorry.
Okay. Cameron, did you get a chance to follow up on anything on your end for the? We wanted to run it through a lawyer, right? When we get to that point, did you?
I've not found any lawyers that say they actually do liability waivers.
Okay.
So
nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
But we're not ready, so it's all good. Okay. All right, just jumping to the next thing. I said this to a few folks, but this is just an informational item for most of you guys. Next meeting, so 2 weeks from today, I'd like to have an inventory or asset collection of for everything in Northreach. So anything that you got stored that belongs to Northreach within your region, throw it in an Excel sheet, and let's compile that all together as one thing, so we can look at assets across the whole state. I want to see where everything is, how much there is of it, and where it's stored. Those are the main pieces that I'm worried about. What and where and how much.
There is one thing.
Yeah.
The dungeon crawl walls, those are moved on a fairly quick timeline here. They are stored outside. They are covered, but if we want those, we're going to have to get them. It's fallen months, but I really don't want to leave that up to Mother Nature. It's whether or not we have walls.
Okay, you're breaking up a lot, but what I'm getting from it is they're stored outside. Elements are going to get them here soon because winter is coming, and so we need to figure out what to do with the dungeon crawl wall. Is that right? Got it. Okay. If you don't mind, make sure that maybe put some asterisks in in the file when for Ravenstone, since they're stored in Ravenstone. That's kind of how I'm going to do it right now.
Yes.
Is inventory everything that's stored in your region.
Yes.
And that way we'll compile it all together. But
that's all we've got that I'm aware of.
Okay. But yeah, I want to get that all together, and then I think that's something that we should all kind of that the Prime Minister or somebody needs to keep track of. Red's already on top of it. But I think that's something that we didn't have before or hasn't been updated in a while, and so we just need to get that together. All right. So bonus item for those that may have looked at my agenda that was put out earlier, because this item wasn't on there initially. Red, I'm going to let you take the lead on this for the most part, if you're okay with that. But it's the membership review for Kevin Moore.
Can I interrupt?
Oh, sure. Did you have something?
I would like to strongly suggest that the council discuss this first in closed session.
Agreed.
Okay, that's fine too. Yeah. Anything else for open session before I close this up?
I think we are. I think he just brought. Yeah, we're good. My brain.
All right. Bye, everybody. If I can find the stop broadcast.